Hello and welcome. My name is Julia Wuench, and I am the founder of the Authenticity Guide, a coaching firm working to enhance connectedness and fulfillment. Today, I'm really excited to be talking to you about the topic of networking, particularly networking in this strange world that we find ourselves in now with the coronavirus. I'm really excited that the conference asked me to speak. I'm in great company, and so hopefully you're finding some great content for you and your teams. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to get started. Okay, so the topic for this presentation is remote does not equal removed, authentic networking amidst a global pandemic. So what's changed between a couple months ago and right now in terms of networking? Well, first off, we have no in-person gatherings, right? There's no kind of organic connections that would happen at events like conferences, happy hours, dinners. We're seeing that many conferences are moving to online, not unlike this one at the Remote Work Summit, but others are canceled altogether. We feel more lonely, we feel more isolated from each other. For those of us who are living with a person or people, those are the people we see every day. For those of us who are living alone, we don't see people in person every day, and that can feel really isolating. We may also feel anxious, sad, and worried. This is a global health crisis after all, and I think there's a lot of fears, particularly among people with underlying conditions and people who are 60 and older, that this will really affect them in a significant way. And of course, those fears are well-founded and legitimate. Some of us also may be finding that we have a little bit more free time in a day. Maybe we're no longer commuting and we find that we have an extra hour or two that we can dedicate to extra things. And we're seeing the same faces on Zoom every day. So whether that's our teams, whether that's our family, it's kind of the same faces that keep appearing on those Zoom channels, on those video chat channels. And so that's what's majorly changed. But here's the silver lining. COVID is a really amazing catalyst for increasing your networking, which really could decrease feelings of isolation and loneliness. So it's a good catalyst, it's a good time. And you can use this time wisely to network as a way to lay the foundation for your future after all of this is over. So I'm going to challenge you to improve and expand your network at this time, because you're going to be primed and ready then when the fog lifts from all this stuff. There's an expression that says networking when you don't need a job is the perfect time to network, and it's exactly the case right now. It might be challenging to actually quit and switch jobs right now amidst a global pandemic, but there's no reason why you can't set the groundwork for doing that when this is all over. So what actually is networking? Let's just get a definition here. So it's connecting with people, right? It's not complicated. It's a connection with another person. It's about building reciprocal relationships. Relationships is the key word. Networking is about relationships. And the most valuable contacts in the networking space are going to be people who you like, who you respect, who you feel like you could learn from, who you could help, who you want to help, who would be able to help you, and people who you might trust or admire. What isn't networking? This is a critical question. Attending numerous events and making a few tentative connections. So networking is not about quantity. That's a really, really key point. It's not about arrogance and self-promotion. It's not about giving unsolicited feedback, which is giving feedback when nobody asked you for your opinion, right? It's not an opportunity to just talk about yourself. And I'm sure we all know people who see networking that way, and it's not fun to be on the other side of those conversations. It's not about collecting business cards, collecting connections on social media. It's again, not quantity. It's also not an immediate payoff. And so when you network, you're going to find that it's not like you're going to get a raise or a job the next day, but we're going to talk about this kind of concept throughout, that networking pays dividends sometimes when you least expect it. And so don't expect that immediate payoff. That's okay. I want to talk about use cases for remote networking in our current climate. So the first use case obviously is just connecting with other people. We're social distanced, we're quarantined. We need connection. Human beings are social creatures, we're mammals. We need connections with other human beings. Networking is a great way to do that. Also learning. For many of us, we're very curious how other industries and other people are handling the situation, and also how their industries are adapting, how their jobs are adapting, what's going on with their lives, their kids. And so it's a great time to learn and express curiosity. Setting yourself up for a future job search. Now, right now might not be the right time to embark on a new job search, but it's a great time to network, to focus on future job prospects, whether that's promotions within your company, a transition to a new company, returning to the workforce after a break. There's also this thing called the hidden job market, which is this idea that not all roles are always posted publicly on job boards. And you're not going to know maybe of your ideal job until you network and talk to people and ask what their needs are. And I have this phrase here, DIY jobs, which is this idea that sometimes we can pitch a job to a company that we feel like they need and our skill sets are a great match for. People don't often think about this, but a lot of people get jobs this way by listening and networking and pitching a job, and that's called the hidden job market. Also, it's a great time for business development, both for your own business if you're an entrepreneur, but also for a company that you work for. It might not be the right time to get additional paying clients right now. I think understandably people are feeling a little bit shy about chalking out money because everyone's financial future feels really uncertain right now. And so be respectful that now might not be the right time to sell, but business development and selling are not the same thing, right? And so it's a great time to establish those connections. Honing your lifelong authentic networking skills. I always describe networking as a muscle. It's not something that you're necessarily going to be good at from the get-go, but it's a muscle and you're going to get better the more you do it. What I alluded to before is that networking is really an investment portfolio. It's going to pay dividends at times when you might least expect it, and that's great. Also, expand your contacts, expand your visibility. Now, as I said before, it's a tough time to get people to pay for things, but that doesn't mean you can't stay visible. And what that means is keep posting on your social media, keep sending those emails, let people know you're still there. I refer to something called the tree branch effect, which is in networking, when you talk to one person, which is a branch of a tree, that can have the catalytic effect of talking to then 3 people from that one person. And from each of those people, you talk to 3 more people, and you can kind of picture the branching out of a tree. And that's how I want you to kind of visualize your network. Before you start, you need 3 things: goal, brand, and plan. And we're going to go through each one of those. So before you kind of launch into this whole networking thing, let's make sure you've got these 3 things set. The first is a goal. So what am I looking to get from this conversation? What's your story? What are you looking for? What's your narrative? Try to encourage yourself to be succinct and kind of practice what that narrative is. And I work a lot with my coaching clients on really perfecting that narrative. Your goal here can be as simple as, I just wanted to learn about your job or your industry. I was interested to connect because of this common thread, or I was curious. That's a perfectly valid goal. Just make sure that you know what your goals are. And your goals might change for each conversation. I encourage that. I think that's great. A clear brand. In 2020, it's really important that you just clean up your brand across all social media platforms. It's easy to do, and it's something that just automatically makes you look that much more professional. So think about the language that you're using to describe yourself in your Instagram, in your LinkedIn, in your Facebook. Make sure that it's all consistent. Make sure it's up to date and relevant. You know, delete those pictures from drinking from the beer funnel in college. Those have no place on Facebook anymore. And really knowing your online presence is power. So Google yourself, don't be shy about that. You can also write. I think writing is a skill that's absolutely crucial to visibility. And so you can blog, you can have an opinion about something and write about it. Write an article on Medium or LinkedIn, and that's a great way to write something and then just put it out to your network. People are reminded that you're there, that you have a perspective. You can also reshare other people's articles that you've got something out of or you enjoyed. that helps that person out. So they're more likely to feel kindly towards you for resharing their content. And it also reminds people that you're there and absorbing content. So you don't have to be the one to write it. It's great if you are. And third, a plan. I'm a planner. I think setting goals and accountability for yourself in networking is absolutely crucial. Set those goals and stick to them. It can be something as small as, I'm going to send X number of email requests for conversations per day, per week. Whatever feels tenable for you, whatever feels sustainable for you. Like, it's not a bar that's so high that's going to stress you out, but it feels doable and it's going to hold you accountable. Now, I want you to start the only place you can start, which is where you are today. And so the best place to start with networking is actually, believe it or not, with people who you already know. And that's a fact that many people forget when they start to network. So what I want you to do, first things first, list all of your first degree contacts, which is everyone who you know who also knows you. That's a first degree contact. And so some examples of those are former and current colleagues, friends, family, classmates, neighbors, volunteers. Don't forget about those alumni communities that you may belong to. So your alma mater might have a presence in the current city that you live in. Get in touch with those. If you're a runner, maybe there's a running club, whatever affinity groups you belong to. Also, pay attention to those little voices in your head. I will have thoughts that pop in my head throughout the day that will say, what about this person who I used to work with? What about that person that I went to school with? Don't ignore those. Reach out to those people. They're popping into your head for a reason. They're going to be glad to hear from you. It's a great time to just check in with people. We're all home. It feels really good to have someone kind of check in on your well-being. I've been doing that with people who pop into my head. I've been getting alerts on my phone of people doing that with me. I think it's really great. Once you've done that, I want you to email or text or call, whatever your comfort level is with these people, to just set up virtual coffee chats, time to connect. You can have coffee, you can have tea, you can have a beer, whatever you want to do, and just connect, reconnect with these people. And as you're talking to them, remember, you did those 3 things before, so you know what your goal is going into this conversation. I'd like you to ask who else this person recommends you connect with. Given that my goal is to learn more about the tech industry, who else do you suggest that I talk with, right? Who better to ask those questions of than your first degree network, people who already know you. Use this time to firm up all of those pre-existing connections. I would definitely advise you to inquire about everyone's health and sanity and just check in. Hope you're healthy, hope you're sane. Do you need anything, right? It's a great time to do that. I want to talk now about second and third degree connections. And so the first step here is, I'm a list person, in case that's not obvious. I'd like you to make a list of your dream employers, those like them, and also make a list of professionals that you might not know, but maybe you admire, maybe you've been following their content. And I want you to then find second degree connections from those companies or from those people on LinkedIn, which is an amazing tool for second degree connection. And then I want you to reach out to those people. I recommend, though, be careful here. I recommend having at least one person in common with the person you reach out to in LinkedIn. So that way it's a second degree connection. You'll see that little square that says second degree connection. I suggest having at least one person in common before reaching out. It adds to your credibility. It decreases the creepiness factor of, we know nobody in common. Why is this person reaching out to me? Are they a human? Are they a robot? And so try to stick to those second degree LinkedIn connects as much as you can. There's also a right and a wrong way to connect on LinkedIn. And I get totally overwhelmed with way more wrong than I do right on a daily basis. And so the right way is personalized, right? Hi, I looked at your website. The lens of authenticity and coaching totally resonates with me, and I love the content you're putting out in the world. I was wondering, I'm sure you're really busy, but maybe you have time to connect. If so, here's the way to get in touch with me, right? So warm, humility. You're not assuming the person's going to talk to you, but you're saying, I just read about you. I'm curious. This is a unique message to you, right? Make that person feel special and heard. The wrong way to go about it is a cold, clearly copy pasted, not personal, salesy, expectant, entitled tone. So I get a lot of these every day. So hello, right? Not even including my name. I help entrepreneurs do sales for their business. Reach out to schedule a time to connect, right? Like I'm never going to respond to that. You're never going to respond to that. You know, this person doesn't know anything about my business. My email address is publicly posted on my LinkedIn, right? So you could have emailed me. It's not authentic, and it's a little entitled. And so that's the wrong way to go about these LinkedIn messages. Try to focus on being personal and warm. I also want you to manage those expectations around percentage of responses. The truth is, even if someone intends to get back to you or felt warmly about receiving your message, sometimes they just forget. Sometimes they're just not a responder. And so keep in mind, this is a numbers game. And so I like to say between 10 and 20% response rate for these second degree connection invites on LinkedIn. And so keep in mind, that means if you're sending 10 messages a day, you'll probably get at most 2 back. And that's not a reflection on how good or bad you are at networking. It's just a statistics and numbers. So remember that. Also check out meetup.com. They have work from home groups that you can explore. So you can work from home, co-work with other people, and that can be a really fun way to meet people too. You can also try cold emailing if an email address is publicly available. Again, I would suggest that you have a person in common so that you can link the first sentence of that email to the one person you have in common, and also manage your expectations about response percentages. Don't get dejected if you sent 10 emails out this week and you didn't get any responses. That's the name of the game. Keep at it, and I promise you it will pay off eventually. What's the most important thing to do after the networking conversation? What do you think it is? I will tell you. Follow up. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be a gift of the most expensive top shelf whiskey. It can literally be an email that says, thank you for talking to me. It was so great to catch up. Of course, if you had follow-up items, note those in your thank you email. It's really important to do that. But have on record that you spoke and you thanked them. It's basic etiquette. Not enough people do it. I'm telling you, really not enough people do it. And so you can stand out from the crowd by just sending a quick follow-up thank you. A fun way to kind of remind yourself to send follow-ups, if you told them you would reconnect with them in a month or 2 months or a week, you can set a calendar reminder. I'm a big fan of just putting in my GCal reminder to reach back out to this person. That helps me stay accountable. Another fun tool I like is followupthen.com. You just BCC that email address. You can BCC whatever time period, 1 week, 2 years, whatever it is, at followupthen.com, and they'll send you that automated email back. So it'll come right back into your inbox. That's a fun tool to keep in mind. There's lots of other tools like this. This is just one I suggest. Use whatever works for you. I've got some tips for you. Start networking with the people who love you. If you're someone who has a little bit of stage fright around networking and connecting cold turkey, it can really help to just start with a foundation of people who you know are going to be really happy to talk to you and who unconditionally love you, even if there's awkward silences. So I would suggest starting there. Have a system for capturing and categorizing your contacts. When COVID is over, which it will be over, believe me, there will be a vaccine, we will come out of this, you're going to want to remember who you networked with and talked to, and you're going to want to check in on them again. You know, you're building this foundation, and so don't let that go to waste. Make sure you're capturing your contacts. Luckily for you, I have a freebie for you as a participant in this webinar, and it is my networking tracker that I use, that all of my clients use to track their networking. And I'm going to send you a free copy. So more on that later in the presentation. Send updates to your network. This can be a mass email where you let people know what's going on. It can be a LinkedIn status update on something new that happened at work. Again, this goes back to relevance. Stay relevant to your network. Treat networking like an investment portfolio. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's going to pay dividends when you least expect it. Develop that networking muscle, right? This takes practice just like anything else. And if you keep keep at it and develop numbers and metrics and stick to them. It's just like exercising, right? You're going to keep doing it. You're on a schedule. You're holding yourself accountable. Set those goals, whatever goal makes sense for you. There's no good or bad goals. It's just good to have goals so that you know what your metric of success is. Maybe my metric of success, because I'm trying to sell or do outreach on a particular thing, is 10 emails a day. Maybe yours is 10 emails a month. There's no good or bad. It's just what feels right for you, and it's a metric for your own success. When you're networking, ask what you can do for the other person. We're going to talk more about reciprocity on the next slide, but just keep this in mind. A note on self-care. These are hard times. For a lot of us, this is bringing up existential terror. For people with underlying health conditions, this is a really terrifying time. It's hard to not be able to go out into the world. So self-care is the most important thing. Don't network yourself to death. That's not the goal here. Know who you can lean on when you don't feel right, or you're kind of at your wit's end, or you're breaking. Know who you can lean on when you're feeling that way. Take breaks if you need them. This doesn't have to be constant. Don't beat yourself to death with networking. This is meant to enrich your life and create more opportunities for you. It's not meant to drain you. I say be shameless and aim high. In Yiddish, we have this word called chutzpah, which basically means audacity with the ch. And I say tasteful chutzpah because you really should aim high. It's okay to have a little bit of audacity about who to talk to. Why shouldn't you email, the chief operating officer of a company that you're a fan of? The worst that happens is that they won't respond, and then you're no worse off than you were before. It's not like they're going to slander your name all over the internet or blacklist you. They'll just ignore you. And if you're me, I'm of the belief that being ignored is not the worst thing that could happen. In fact, I get ignored all the time, and I'm okay with that. And so I encourage you to be okay with getting ignored. That's the worst part. The best part is they'll say yes and you'll talk to them, right? And so I encourage you to have that tasteful chutzpah. We talked about this already, but please don't forget about the network that you already have. I can't tell you how many times I'm working with clients and we're trying to figure out how they can kind of network in with a company or a person or a situation, and they'll remember, my uncle used to work at this company, right? It's so obvious, but we have to pull it out of them. And so that's why it's really critical to do that initial canvassing work up front of those first degree connections. You, whether or not you're aware of it, already have a robust network. I promise you, everyone does. It's a facet of being alive on the planet and meeting people and being out in the world. You have a network. Don't forget about that, because those are the people who are most likely to help you. Stay up to date on industry trends, especially if you're finding that you have some extra free time. Now's a great time to read more. So I love Forbes. I write for Business Insider, so I read a lot of Business Insider. It's a great time to just use the news as a way to have new content for a message for someone. I saw that you wrote this article. I saw you were featured in this article. I loved it. Would love to talk more, right? So don't be shy about using those strategies. I promised you we'd talk more about reciprocity, so now's the time where we're going to do that. Here are some things you can offer people when you're talking to them. It might feel like an empty promise saying, what can I do for you? But I encourage you to ask that. And here are some things that you can offer. You can offer to look at or give strategic input on a project that the person is working on. You can introduce them to someone you know in your network who might be a valuable connection for them, right? Maybe it'll come up that they want to redo their website, but they just don't have time. Maybe you have a friend who's a web designer and you want to make that introduction, right? It could be anything, but that's helpful, right? And what you're doing is you're listening. That's the first step. And then you're matchmaking. You're listening and you're saying, what are that person's needs? Do I know anyone who could fill those needs? And how can I help them, right? That's rare. People don't do this enough. And so canvass your own network to see how you can help them. Send them an article or a book that you read that maybe relates to something they're talking about. Send them content. Get creative too. I find that sometimes I just really love if I mention that I'm going on vacation and the person I'm talking to has been on vacation. Again, this is when we'll be able to go on vacation again. I love when people send me like restaurant recommendations, or we stayed at this Airbnb and it was adorable. Go do this thing. I love creative reciprocity. And so I encourage you to think really out of the box about how you can listen. First step is always listening, right? And then it's about being thoughtful based on what you heard. That concludes our presentation, guys. I hope you found this to be educational. I hope you learned a lot about how to stay networked and stay connected in this crazy pandemic time that we're having. I mentioned my freebie, and so I'm going to talk about that a little bit now. So my website is to the left, juliawuench.com. My email address is below it. What I'd like you to do, if you would like a free copy of my networking tracker that I use with clients and I use myself, send me an email. In the subject line, type in freebie. Type me a note if you would like. I would love to hear from you. And I'm going to send you that free networking tracker. As a side note, I'm going to also subscribe you to my email list once you do this, but don't worry, I never spam you. I'm just going to send you articles and cool resources, never more than once every 2 weeks. You can unsubscribe anytime, but I don't think you'll want to. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Remote Summit Conference. I'm sure the content is going to be great. But let's talk. I do free 30-minute coaching sessions, and so if you're interested in getting free 30 minutes of coaching, I know I would be, reach out and let's get that scheduled. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.